All right, so today I want to welcome Natorie Moreno to the real estate. All right, so today I want to welcome Natorie Moreno to the weekly real estate show. Welcome, Natorie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So Natorie is essentially a rookie real estate agent. She got her license about 8 to 9 months ago. So today what I wanted to bring her on is to share her reflections with what's transpired over the first year, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything else that has kind of transpired over the past 8 to 9 months. So Natorie, let's start with this. Why did you decide to get your real estate license? Okay. All right, so today I want to welcome Natorie Moreno. The reason I'm bringing her on today is she is a rookie real estate agent. So she's going to talk about the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, and ugly over the course of her first year in real estate. So she's now been licensed for 8 or 9 months. And the first thing I want to ask you, well, first of all, welcome to the show. But the first thing I want to ask you, Natorie, is why did you decide to get your real estate license?
That is a great question. I first got my real estate license in the middle of the pandemic, and I was kind of in between switching careers. And with that, realizing I wanted to really help people. And coming from a medical standpoint, I wanted to help people and kind of bring them a smile. And that really wasn't in medicine. I went into real estate with the first idea thinking of the only way I'm going to buy a house in Silicon Valley is by selling them. And that was my approach. And so I wanted to learn a lot of things about business, opened up my LLC and got started at EQ1 Real Estate.
Awesome. So you actually got your license 3 years ago. Is that correct?
I got my license last year, but I had started taking the courses in 2020. And then I was in a car accident and kind of got pushed off a little bit, but I did get licensed in April of 2022.
Okay, awesome. So we're just about a year, actually just a
Yeah.
year ago that you actually got your license started. So that's an interesting story that you're telling there, is that you originally wanted to go into a different profession, which was the medical field. And a lot of people
Yes.
don't wake up as little kids saying, one day I want to be a real estate agent, right? It's almost a career that we fall into. And then you
Yes.
decided to, like you said, right, when you pivoted from the medical career, you decided to pursue real estate. Hold on. There's
Okay.
something like audio is like messed up or something.
Is it? I was wondering if it's the internet just lagging a little bit.
Yeah, it must be the internet or something. It is lagging. All right, mic check. All right, so today I want to bring on Natorie Moreno. Natorie is a first-year real estate agent, and I wanted to bring her on today so she can share her story, and plus the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs, the good, the bad, and ugly with regards to being a first-year realtor. So Natorie, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you, Fernando?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much for asking. So let's start with this. Why did you decide to get your real estate license?
Decided to get my real estate license when it was going through the pandemic. I was just about to graduate, got my neuroscience degree, and with that, kind of just realized that medicine really wasn't for me. I really wanted to help people and put a smile on their face at the end of the day, and really just be a resource for them. And that just wasn't in medicine. So I switched over, took the classes beginning of 2021 through 2022. Got licensed in April of 2022 and joined EQ1 Real Estate and began my career.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I don't think there's a lot of neuroscience majors in real estate. You might be one of the first that I know of.
Hey, it does work though, because I use a lot of psychology, a lot of what I've learned. At the end of the day, we're a people business, right? And dealing with different kinds of people, different kinds of backgrounds, and that's really helped me be successful with dealing with the various kinds of clients.
Absolutely, right. In this business, we never know who it is we're going to come across. We never know who it is that we're gonna help or will need our help. So you do have to
Definitely.
adjust to each and every person that we come across in real estate. So the next question that I want to ask you, as you mentioned, you decided to pursue real estate. You got started a year ago. Let's talk about before you got licensed or before you actually got your actual license. What type
Okay.
of, I was gonna say, kind of preparation were you doing prior to that, as far as looking into brokerages, which ones to join, as far as what things you should do to hit the ground running? What was, like, say, the 3 or 4 months leading up to you getting licensed? So start of last year, January 1, between then and the time you got licensed. What were you doing during that time?
So before that, I was actually working at Johansson and Yao, an accounting firm, and
Okay.
doing taxes. And by working there, I was being introduced to so many people that have these huge companies like Beguinian Properties. I ended up meeting one of the sons there. Met just different kinds of people who have all these extensive portfolios, and getting to realize how real estate is actually a business, and
Hmm.
owning real estate, and how you could build generational wealth down the line.
Okay.
And that really interested me and kind of pushed me forward into pursuing my own real estate.
Got it. So during those first few months before you actually got licensed, you weren't going into this blind. You're already talking to people that owned investment real estate,
Yes.
doing some research and whatnot. Let's talk about a little bit more about that research phase that you're doing. So when you're in the process of getting your license, how were you going about researching brokers or brokerages to work for? What was your process going through that process?
So going back, actually in my real estate classes, they have you go and you have to speak with realtors, and
Okay.
you kind of get in front of people, ask them about their career, ask about 17 questions, pretty much do an
Okay.
interview similar to this, and kind of getting their feedback. And one of the biggest ones, her name is Gloria. She is with Keller Williams. She's been with them, I believe, over 23 years. And she really just inspired me. I ended up connecting with her, and she
Hmm.
was kind of giving me some knowledge about, really in your first year, how it's so imperative that you find a good mentor and somebody that really is going to kind of show you the ropes and just give you all the feedback, the good, the bad, the ugly, and really just setting you up for success. That was something that she actually didn't have. So she was under a broker. Unfortunately, he was just really busy at the time.
Hmm.
Back then, it was a lot of papers that, had getting papers signed. So it's pretty different to nowadays. And how she just, she would be missing documents when it came to finalizing the transaction and having to go back and forth. So she was saying how just to have somebody that really just makes you focus and helps you understand, well, these are the documents, these are parameters, this is what is required, really set her up, would set me up for success. And so that's what she pushed and helped me find different brokerages, kind of research about them. And then over time, I was introduced to Mike Bowie
Hmm.
through a friend, and he never knew like really about EQ1, but realizing how dynamic EQ1 really is. And it's just a profound brokerage that I'm so happy to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. You're my colleague, my coworker, so I'm glad that you are part of EQ1. But no, I think that was great that you were asking these questions, you're learning more about the business as opposed to just jumping in. I think
Yes.
what I see what a lot of newer agents do is they just jump into the business. They don't do a ton of
Hmm.
research, not really prepared for what's going to happen over the course of the next year or two. So you've probably
True.
heard the stat, right, that there's an 87% attrition rate for people who get their licenses. Have you heard that?
I have heard of that. I have heard of it.
So anyone that lasts about 3 years is in that 13%, right? So
Hmm.
that's why I think it's important, especially that very first year, is for you to have basically a good set of expectations, knowing what to go into it. And when you're talking to brokers, you're asking certain questions, that's going to help you a lot. So what I want to ask you this is, as you're talking to brokers, what were some of the things that were important to you? What are some of the questions that you asked? Was there any situation where you're like, you know what, this broker, I asked him this question, that wasn't a good response, or when I talked to
Yeah.
Mike or other brokers, they did give me good answers. What are some of the things that you were asking at that time?
So what I was asking is, what does the mentorship programs look like? So being that Gloria was part of Keller Williams, she was
Hmm.
introducing me to quite a few realtors over there, a few managers, a couple of brokers. And one of the things that I found, because I actually wanted to go train there for a day. So before I even
Okay.
got my license, I asked, hey, is it okay that I shadow? Just because I want to understand what I'm getting into and
Hmm.
make sure that it's the right fit for both myself and the broker. Who am I going to be under? Um, I think at the end of the day, what really kind of made that final decision in my head was I wanted to be able to ask anybody anything and to be able
Hmm.
to have a good support group. And there were some people that I would see them ask questions, and it was almost like you had a lot of sharks around you, which is fabulous.
Mm.
I mean, you want to be successful, you want to have a good business. perspective. However, in that beginning stages, I wanted support. Like, who can I
Yeah.
ask questions? Who can I be able to just go to and just say, hey, can I get your feedback on X, Y, and Z? And it'd be just a straight, easy, honest answer. I didn't really see that. It was kind of like I was asking either the wrong person, or maybe other people just weren't willing to help train
Hmm.
me, or like let me ask the questions. When I came to EQ1, I was able to ask all these questions and then some, and get so much feedback just by all my colleagues. And they were super supportive. Like, where could we help? If you have any questions, just text me, email me,
Hmm.
get a hold of me somehow. And it just made the best just outlook on how I could learn to be successful in that environment.
No, I think that's a great point. I think a lot of times an agent might want to work for the biggest brokerage, right? Or
Hmm.
get the biggest commission splits, or maybe this
Yes.
company has the best training program. But that's only one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is, like you said, it's the culture, right? It's the
Yes.
culture. It's having open doors. We can talk to any of the experienced agents or management, or get
Definitely.
support, right? I mean, you might be working on a deal. It's like Thursday at 8 p.m. or something, and you want someone to
Yes.
get a hold of. And I think at this company, right, whether it's one of the managers or one of us, the more experienced agents, there's always someone you can probably reach that will help you and answer your questions.
Definitely, for sure. I've actually done that this week, in fact. Calling our manager at like 10 o'clock at night because my clients want to submit an offer, and they
Hmm.
got off work late. So it really became helpful being able to contact and have those conversations, even though it was late. Getting really, really understanding and seeing their support on the back end.
Yeah, absolutely. At some brokerage, maybe somebody might say, "Oh, well, it's the rookie real estate agent. Like, she's not doing a lot of business yet. Like, why want to, take an hour out of my night when I'm with my kids or whoever?" But like, you're right.
True.
Here, they want to support you. They want to see you succeed. But there are a lot of brokerages that are similar to EQ1, even larger brokerages out there that provide the same level of support. So it's important that we've
Yes.
outlined that to start. That you want to find a place
Yes.
that you feel comfortable with, that they're going to want to guide you and support you, and get all your questions answered. So let's not talk about the time that not the time, but now that you've been licensed, let's talk about that very first. Let's call it that very first client interaction that you've had. What was that like? Where did you meet your client? Where did you meet the client at? And how were you able to overcome kind of any doubts or insecurities you had just being licensed?
Um, so my first client was a Zillow Flex lead.
Okay.
Um, I met him at a property over in East San Jose. One of our other experienced realtors, Nikki, went with me because I was just kind of all over the place, nervous,
Hmm.
excited, feeling all the emotions, which was wonderful. But really just kind of getting that feedback of, a more experienced realtor just saying, like, give them some space. Here are kind of the points to talk
Hmm.
about going into the meeting, and then just being able to see that through. Met with him. He was a great individual. Him and his wife both came. So we had great conversations. And kind of shortly after that, it was just making sure you get all the steps and talking about the
Hmm.
pre-approval and what that may look like. Because when you get a Zillow lead, it's a little bit different than just meeting some of the other clients.
Correct.
We have a little bit more of a criteria that we have to meet in order to continue, and what that looks like. So meeting him, I mean, they were a great couple and everything. We ended up putting in an offer shortly thereafter.
Oh, wow, the very first
However,
client you met.
yes. And then right after we put in the offer, this couple decided they needed to
Hmm.
go buy some cars. So
Okay.
going right into the beginning of escrow, and all of a sudden now there's two cars. Those are
Oh,
part of the
wow.
10 commandments that I really wasn't as
Yes, don't
vocal
break
about in the
those.
beginning. And unfortunately, it completely killed the whole deal because they were making an exception, got them a great
Hmm.
loan, great interest rate. And unfortunately, that just broke the entire deal. So being more aware and being able to make sure that I speak about these things when meeting my clients has now become one of my priorities, because now I've realized that that's what I should have talked about when we first met.
Wow. Yeah, that's always unfortunate whenever a transaction falls through for whatever the
Yes.
reason is. And like you had mentioned, it's your first client. You're getting really excited, and then you get them in contract, and then it does fall through because of that.
Yeah.
So during the time before you actually wrote an offer with them and helped them with that process, were you feeling insecure in any way, doubting yourself, like maybe I don't know what I'm doing, or did you feel pretty confident about your skill level at that point?
I would say I was pretty confident about my skill
Okay.
level. I was concerned that I just wanted to make sure I had everything correct. And then I
Hmm.
had to realize that I had to trust the process. And
Yeah.
as long as I trusted the processes and the systems that my peers, my mentors, that they were kind of guiding me through, that I was able to have that confidence. I was a little bit hesitant at first, but
Hmm.
as long as I knew and I was making myself aware, I was asking all the questions, even the questions that may have seemed a little bit on the dumb questions that people may per se, but it really was the most dynamic because I was fully aware of what I was getting into. I knew what was the next steps. So it was just having the ability to rely on the people around me to help get me through the whole process. And that was what the confidence came from.
God, that makes a lot of sense. I think sometimes people want to have all the answers. They want to go through the contract step by
Yes.
step, know everything that's in there, right? Know, everything that the lender has to do or the title, rep has to do or the escrow officer. But
Yeah.
sometimes we just got to focus on what it is that we have to do and answer the
Hmm.
questions that our clients need answered, and then everything
Yes.
else will take care of itself and not get overwhelmed because I think for a lot of rookie real estate agents, there's a lot of overwhelm in this business. Would you not agree?
Easily. I think it can happen at any moment of the day. You never know what to expect. Like I said, we're like coming from a neuroscience background.
Hmm.
You are dealing with all different kinds of people, especially living in Silicon Valley. You're dealing with a lot of ethnicities. You have such an
Yeah.
extreme amount of diversity. You never know who you're going to meet and what they may bring. And you always got to stay ready, is what I say. So
Always got to
it's
stay
one of those
ready.
things that even though if you want the business, and you're a little bit on the edge or whatnot, just stay
Uh-huh.
ready and it's gonna come your way.
Yeah, absolutely. You always got to be ready. Let's talk about a situation in which let's just say you met a client
Okay.
that maybe you were excited about or whatnot, but for some reason it didn't go well, right? Maybe you didn't feel confident, or they asked you the or asked you hard questions that you couldn't answer, or something came about that you lost the client, and not nothing of your fault, of course, but something along the ways, something happened where you basically that person did not turn into a client. Give us a situation and kind of what the lessons learned from that and what you would do different moving forward.
Definitely. I had a client, again, another Zillow lead.
Hmm.
We met in Sunnyvale, like borderline Santa Clara. They were
Okay.
looking to buy in the same complex that they were actually renting from.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I met with them. We hit it off great. At least that's what I thought. And
Hmm.
just I asked like pretty much all the right questions, got them like through a little interview, got really to understand what they were looking for. Um, I kept reaching out to them,
Hmm.
came like about 2 weeks later, because I tried to get in touch with the listing agent because there was an asbestos that hadn't been taken down that was still on the ceiling. So they wanted that taken care of prior to even submitting an offer. However, the listing agent was pretty imperative about if you submit the offer, then we'll do it.
Okay.
So just not being able to handle, I guess, that conversation well and trying to get
Mm.
them to understand this is something that will be done once a contract is in place and once we go into escrow, that's something the seller would be able to handle. That's not the way they were thinking. And unfortunately,
Got
I
it.
couldn't change their mind about how this process goes. And they ghosted me. I haven't been able to get in contact with them. It was just one of those things that I've learned that you kind of really have to show them. Sometimes documents really just
Yeah.
helps them get that visual understanding. So if I were to have shown them the text messages or the emails saying that if you do X, Y, and Z, we'll go ahead and take care of this, maybe would have been a little bit more understanding.
Hmm.
But at that point, they were just done because they felt like it was a health risk to both her mother that was living with them that was older and her daughter. So it was something that was just their top priority. But I was trying to help them realize it is a priority, but just not the way that I should have, I guess.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it'll always continue to happen. In this business, we have to have a lot of difficult conversations, right? Because when
Definitely.
someone is purchasing a home, to own a home, that's like their biggest investment that they're going to make. Even if it's an investor, right? They're investing a
True.
lot of money into this home purchase. And so you got to have difficult conversations sometimes about, right? Like, hey, maybe
Yeah.
you shouldn't make an offer on this home. Maybe you should make an offer. This thing
Yes.
came up or that thing came up. So those things are always going to happen. So, which leads me to my next question, right? Because in this
Okay.
business, we have to continuously talk to people and talk to new people about real estate, right?
Yes.
What are some of the
Yeah,
methods as a first year rookie real estate agent you are doing to try to get business? How are you having conversations, or what are your approaches to try to talk to people about real estate?
definitely. I feel like one of my top qualities is, being able to talk to almost anybody.
Okay.
My grandma likes to say that I've never really met a stranger. And so I really utilize that in real estate. And I love going to networking events.
Okay.
And pretty much the networking events that there's no other realtors there. So I don't go to
Oh,
necessarily the
wow.
ones where it's a room full of realtors. I want to be that realtor that stands out in the room. Whether
Uh-huh.
they know that at the beginning or if that's conversations down the line, that's something that I would like to come up. Another one is cold calling. I love being able to just talk
Okay.
on the phone. I'm pretty confident in knowing how to talk with people, what they objections might come up. And so I've been learning that over time. That's not something that happened overnight. That's happened over the last year per se. And it's just building things and allowing people to understand that I feel much more confident in it. But had you talked to me about 6 months ago, I probably would have been really shy and I probably wouldn't have answered the phone. But learning how to have these dialogues and then overhearing people in the office having these conversations, it really just adds the fuel to the fire. And you're like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it too. So it comes back down to support.
Absolutely. And the thing is since you have a science degree, a science background, usually people in science, in the sciences don't go into sales, don't have to make cold calls, right? And
No.
that's something that you just said, right? That you do to try to get business. Let's talk a little bit about that, right? You're going to make a cold call to call someone. Are you calling a specific list of people? Is it a target list? You have a reason of calling people. What is your approach with regards to, how you identify who you're going to call and what your message is going to be?
So right now, I've been looking at areas that I feel that my client would find
Okay.
properties that would really, check all the boxes for them.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, I've called areas where I just feel really passionate, just not necessarily passionate, but I grew up in those areas. So I would love to be
Sure.
the realtors. I know a lot of neighbors. So I've called them just saying, hey, I'm a realtor now, and just kind of getting the word out there. In other instances, I've called just groups of areas and started like on different what we call as a mojo dialer. We're able to pull up just different people's information, and that's one way I've been able to have these conversations. But right now, I would say the most is I have 4 clients that are looking for properties, and
Got
maybe
it.
just because, well, not maybe, the inventory is low. So I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
find these off market properties for them and see what we were able to possibly get into, having these conversations with the seller. Possibly, we don't know. Well, it's definitely something that you got to continue to work on over time.
Actually, I think that's the best reason to cold call or to reach out to a seller is when you do have an actual buyer. I've done it
Okay.
before. It's a lot warmer. You tend to have a conversation. You're just calling, hey, Mr. Homeowner. I'm not calling to list your home today. I'm calling you because my clients, Julie and Jim, just submitted an
Yeah.
offer down the street, right? And then
Hmm.
they, along with 10 other people, their offer was not accepted. Have you ever thought about, possibly selling your house, right? So that's a
Yes.
lot warmer than if you were to call someone just straight off the bat, hey, just call in the neighborhood. Have you thought about selling? Those
Yes.
two things sound a little
Very
different,
true.
right?
Yes.
What's important, what I've done, and what I would encourage you and anyone else to do is to do it authentically. Really have someone that's looking in that area. Of course, if it's not a fit for your buyer and the seller is intent to sell in or open to
Yeah.
selling, then that could be a listing opportunity. But I look at that as a plus. I look at that as a bonus if we end up having that conversation as with regards to that, right? So I
Yes.
think what you're doing is a good way to start. And then if you add anything on top of that, it's more of a supplement, right? Like as far as you
Yes.
just reaching out to people cold, you might have a little less expectation. But the one thing I'm sure you're doing is when you do have good conversation, I'm pretty sure you're taking down their names and emails and storing them in a
Oh,
database,
definitely.
correct?
Definitely.
So tell us a little bit about that, right? Because I think for a lot of people in this business or getting into this business, they don't realize how much follow up we have to do. We have to do an incredible amount of follow up for us to even get closer to having a potential listing opportunity or someone that wants to, move forward and submit an offer on a house. Tell us about your follow up process.
So I would say my follow-up process, I try to really go from the humanity side is that
Mm-hmm.
that's just my strong point.
Okay.
I'm not really the one that I'm not gonna sell you something. I'm gonna sell
Absolutely.
you on what your dreams are. So I'm gonna ask you
Mm-hmm.
what your dreams are and
Mm-hmm.
what are your goals and what is in the perfect world, in 5 years from now, where would you live? You can live
Yeah.
anywhere. So I really do pull on more of those strings. It's been really helpful. And then with that, I put it into different spreadsheets. So I have
Okay.
some that are like warm, hot, maybe warm in like 3 years because there's people that I've had conversations with and their son's a freshman in high school. So they don't want to move anytime until
Mm-hmm.
after they graduate. But I've still been able to have conversations with them. I've even met her for coffee. And so we built that
Okay.
connection. So it's a process that's happened. But I feel like when I call and I do my follow-ups, it's more like, how are you? How are the kids? How are the grandkids?
Yeah.
Because that's really kind of what I care about. I'm not really caring about I need to meet this, transaction criteria. When I look at people, I look at them as people, not as numbers.
Yeah.
And so that's where I feel like I've been successful. And I have quite a lot of people in my pool right now. Maybe they're just not ready at this very moment,
Mm-hmm.
but they have had solid conversations, continue to talk, reached out, and we're eventually going to have that in the end. There's some people that are like, yeah, I want to sell, but right now is not the time, with the market and hearing all these different things of what's happening in Silicon Valley. Some people are a bit nervous. Others are just, they're ready to move, but they have to, figure out some medical stuff before they move. So they're definitely there, but it's just I'm more of a human person. So it's like I want to share that and I want people to be able to be relate to that because that's really what we all can really mesh at the end of the day is we're all human.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think you said you address concerns, but from a human perspective, not like overcoming objections. Overcoming objections, that means that they throw something out, you gotta counter it, right? More or less,
Yeah.
you're just like, well, have you ever thought about this? Or you said that's important to you, or because of your son, or whatever it is.
Yes.
Now you're having a different conversation because I think what's important, and I've had some of these conversations where they go, "Wow, you're right," or "I never thought about that," or "That's a good
Yes.
point," or "I appreciate you, bringing that up." That's really all I try to do because it's going to build trust. If you're going to be in this
Yes.
business for 10, 15, 20 years, then you have to gain the trust of a lot of people versus someone that's very transactional. You close a deal and that person will never pick up your call again because they didn't have a good
Yeah.
experience with you. So that's
Yes.
something I always encourage you or anybody else that's new in real estate is to really build those relationships so that down the road they'll work with you again when they sell that condo and move into a house or they have friends or family
Definitely.
and they can refer them
Definitely.
to you. Absolutely. Let's talk about something else for people that get into real estate and they're not coming from a sales background. A lot of realtors, as you know, here in our office and different offices, they were not salespeople before this. This is their first time in sales. The amount of rejection that we go through every single day, right? Nothing personal, but in this business, we have to talk to people. And like you said,
Mhm.
people will ghost us and not get back to us, whether it's someone we met
Yeah.
through Zillow, Redfin, an open house, we cold call, door knock. Tell us how you've dealt with rejection over this past year.
I have it's been a process. I'll say in the
Okay.
beginning, it was definitely a little bit harder to just keep getting, hung up on, yelled at, maybe even
Yeah.
cursed at. It's like I didn't
Wow.
I barely spoke, you know.
Yeah.
So I used to take it more to heart and I just kind of like, oh my God, did I get myself into real estate at the wrong time? Is it me? I was going through asking all the
Hmm.
questions, right? And at the end of the day, I realized it's not me. And there's
Yeah.
different people going through different things in their life. Because I've even called the person that hung up on me before. They hung
Hmm.
on me the first time. I called them 3 weeks later, and we had a 15-minute conversation, and they were some of the nicest
Wow.
people. So I think you have to also take into perspective, like they don't know what's happening on the other end of the phone,
Hmm.
and it just may not be their day, or they might be going through something. And I realized, I can't take it personally. I'm just making a phone
Yeah.
call. If at the end of the day it's a no, then it's a no. But it's not affecting me directly. So I've just tried to remain poised and just know that not everybody's going to connect with you. And
Hmm.
pretty much a very small percentage of those people that you call in the day, like maybe one will have a good conversation with you out of like the 200 you called. You never know. And then there's other days where, I picked up the first 3 calls and I'm already having a conversation. And
Hmm.
like the next day I'm having coffee with the person. You never know. So that's just kind of being open minded to that would definitely help. And just don't take things personally. It's just, try again the next day or even try again a couple hours later, whatever works for you. But find what works for you specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like you're learning a lot of lessons over this first year that you've been in real estate. Now, if you were to go back and give yourself advice to yourself 1 year ago, right before you got licensed, or right
Mhm.
when you got licensed, through this first year that you've experienced all these ups and downs, all these the good and the bad, what would you tell yourself back then, as you're getting licensed to do differently? Like what lesson could you impart from today back to a year ago when you first got licensed?
Be patient.
Be patient.
Things
Okay.
you got to really just, I know as much people like, well, now let me back up a little bit. When I first got into real estate, I was hearing all these stories. Like when I was taking the classes in
Hmm.
2021, um, I was hearing these people, they're like, yeah, I got into real estate thinking I'm going to do like 10 transactions a year. I got 10
Mm.
transactions in the first 4 months. And
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
oh, wow, that's incredible. However, you
Yeah.
go into 2022, there's talks of recession, there's all this different things. So I kind of got in at a very big point in history where we've seen a
Hmm.
market shift. And so it
Yeah.
was like, I was like, okay, did I get in at the wrong time? What did I do? I made this big, huge career change, and that's where I really learned how you just got to be patient, create your system and processes. They will work. If you believe in them enough, other people are gonna believe in them as well. So it's kind of
Yeah.
just putting yourself in position to succeed and in position to be successful, and really just, who do you have around you in your circle and how are they helping you develop? And so it will happen in time, and I trust and believe that. Um, there's only so much you can do. So just being consistent is definitely a key component to real estate.
Yeah, that's true. Being patient, staying consistent, and like not getting discouraged because you didn't close 10 deals even that first year or even in 2 years, which is very, very common, right? So, with all that being said, and you're doing this full time, correct?
I am doing this full time.
Okay, well, with all that being said, we'll give you the confidence to do this full time because again, this is a big risk. Did you have some savings saved up, or what
Yes.
kind of what kind of set you up to like say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go all in?
So just getting out of school, my parents were definitely not as supportive of my real estate change, but I had saved up quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what, I'm going to do this. And the way I went in with it is I said, I'm at that time I was 24, and I said, I'm going to go into real estate. If it
Okay.
doesn't work out, I still have I still have my neuroscience degree. So I do have a
Yeah.
backup plan. And I'm very
Okay.
much a planner. So just in case things were to happen, I always would have like a plan B and a plan C, because you
Sure.
never know. Anything can happen in this world. So I had a huge savings account.
Mm-hmm.
I have the support of my grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
and then my parents, and then a couple of my cousins. And they just, we're going to help see you through it. We'll talk to as many people as we can, just, helping with my sphere and whatnot. But it was definitely a thing where I felt like if you don't get 2 feet in and go all in, you're not going to have the success that you want. And to really gain that knowledge and be around your peers, colleagues, mentors, like bosses, everybody, if you're not around them and you're not just constantly wanting to learn and just absorb as much information as you want to, you're going to find yourself stagnant. And so I didn't want to be stagnant. I wanted to be in position to succeed, and that's what I've done.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because there are a lot of things that happen during the day that if you're full time, you probably couldn't attend different meetings and
Definitely.
cold calling days that we do at the office, and let's go door
Yes.
knocking together and let's do different things and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But yes, I would say someone out there that has a different life and financial situation. They may have kids, they're a single parent. I wouldn't advise for
Hmm.
them to go full time. Maybe someone like that person, maybe they're best off doing it part time or joining a team and trying to
Yeah.
basically, pick up whatever clients they can pick up when they can pick up because yeah, there is a lot of things that could happen. And someone like yourself, Natorie, who's younger, who doesn't have kids, doesn't have the same responsibilities as someone with a family.
Oh,
You're saying, you know what,
definitely.
I'm taking a chance on myself. I'm going to sacrifice whatever money I can make in a career to make this
Yes.
real estate thing work out for me because maybe in 2 or 3 years, you're now reaching a higher level than if you would have
Yeah.
pursued just, a neuroscience career.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think it's important. Everybody's situation is different, to really point that out. It may work for some people to do it part time. I just know
Hmm.
with my mentality and where I come from, it's all in or nothing, So that
Yeah.
that was pretty much my perspective throughout my whole education. And that's how it is in my career as well.
Let's look at the future, right? So we've reached this point, 12 months into your career. right? You've gotten started, you're out there doing different things to try to market yourself and to prospect, and to meet new clients and whatnot. But obviously you want to grow. One of the reasons I want to talk to you today is
Yes,
because you're ambitious, right? You're not just here, hey,
definitely.
I'll do a deal here and there, and I'm good with that, right? You're ambitious. Obviously, you have the potential to do, much more than you are today in your first year. What are
Mhm.
some of the things that you see yourself doing differently, say over the next 12 to 24 months, as you enter the second year and third year career, that you feel like can propel you to the next level in your career?
Definitely. One of the conversations I had was with another realtor in our firm, Gaston,
Mm-hmm.
about reverse engineering your clients and kind of getting in front
Okay.
of people. I love people. I love being able to talk and interact and just going out and doing something. So kind of I've been in the process of figuring out what that may look like and what kind of clients I
Mm,
want to work with. So I've really been narrowing down my niche over time, and it's something that some realtors come in, they're like, know exactly who I'm going to work with, who I'm going to talk to.
yeah.
That wasn't me. I felt like I could talk to a lot of people, so I didn't really know what that looked like. Now my goal is to do more of getting in front of people that are looking to build generational wealth. That's something I'm
Okay.
super passionate about, and I've been working and talking with investors. um, I also work with an executive training program called Les
Mm,
Confidants, and
okay.
they've been helping me, finding resources even in that area to find how am I going to really solidify what I'm doing in my brand and how am I going to make that bigger and how is it going to work for me. So it's a lot of asking all these right questions,
Mm-hmm.
but really getting down to the nitty gritty and understanding who you are and how is that going to work for you.
Wow, let's get down to the nitty gritty because that is true, right? You gotta basically set yourself apart, right? There's so many every year, there's thousands of new real estate agents, right? Even in our own
Yes,
market, right? Every year there might
yes.
be 1,000 new licensees just in our own market, right? But you're right, you want to set yourself apart. What would you say moving forward might be one of those niches, might be one of those target markets that you want to focus on moving forward?
That is a great question. Definitely, people that want to build their real estate portfolio.
Okay.
That's something that I've been learning how to have those conversations. I really want to get into the cash flow business. So I've
Okay.
been learning and going to these different meetings, and I've even asked people that are head of these syndications, like, how can I just sit in the back and just listen? Like, I'm not in it. Like, I
Hmm.
just want to absorb information. I'm not in it to just like jump right in. I want to learn because essentially I want to help others learn how to not be able to like not have to work those 40-hour work weeks where you
Hmm.
can spend time with your family and you can do all these other activities, go travel. And that's something that I really feel passionate about and I really want to help others learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if that's the niche you want to go down, and you've obviously shown an interest. We went to a meetup not too long together. We had something here at the
Yep.
office that you came to as well. You should definitely do it. Let's talk a little bit more about branding and content. What would you say is your plan over the next 12 months to give yourself more exposure? Do you plan to do more videos? Do you plan to do other forms of content? What is kind of your strategy on that end?
So I have been blessed enough to have an amazing marketing team. So
Hmm.
they've really helped me engage what my color palettes are and, what my
Okay,
content really in my head, what it looks like, but they're helping me bring it to life. So,
got it.
just being able to have their accountability and almost have their support where I'm confident enough to do it.
Hmm.
I feel like I've even collected so many great content, like videos of properties or, what have you over the last year or so that just being able to actually use those and show what my skills are, where my knowledge is, like knowing the difference between different kinds of bathrooms and kitchens and whatnot. So my
Yeah.
goal at the end of the day is to be posting more videos, not just on Instagram, but TikTok and YouTube. So really just kind of tagging those three in all together, um,
Hmm.
and just showing where my knowledge is and where I'm professional and how I'm professional because I know what these are. I know what to look for when going into a property and making that work for others, and just kind of being a resource to know how to help others either find what would be a good investment, and then also pointing out like, hey, that could be something that's really iffy and could cause you some you know some loss to your pocketbook at the end of the day. So kind of just, it's a whole thing about building my own brand by helping others know and what to look for real estate.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I definitely encourage you to do more of that. You're a good speaker, good communicator. So I think you'll do well as you create more of this content or video content. I want to end it on this. I want you to answer a couple of questions. One
All
is
right.
what advice would you give someone considering getting their license? And the second part is what advice would you give to someone who just got their license and is just about to get started?
Awesome. For somebody just about to get their license, I would
Mm-hmm.
encourage to go to either somebody that you know, either if you know anybody in real estate, or just start researching like some
Mm-hmm.
brokers and just ask to intern for a day or be
Okay.
able to shadow somebody just to get that perspective. I think some people come into real estate thinking like, I sell houses, check, that's it. Like it's just really
Yeah,
quick and
yeah.
it's a
Doesn't
fast
work
paced
that
thing.
way.
It's not. I wish it would
It's a
have. But
marathon.
if it worked that way, everybody would be in it, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not that. So I think just preparing yourself and understanding what you're getting into. Go check out open houses. What are they
Mm-hmm.
about? What are these people doing? Just to really get yourself in front of what's to be expected. For somebody that's just kind of getting started, ask as many questions as you need to.
Yeah.
Really, it's not really about being book smart, the stuff that you study for the real estate exam. It has a lot to do with real estate, but it's not it at the end of the day. So it's
Yeah,
pretty much, there's a
absolutely.
lot of other components that your broker can really teach you, where you could learn even from mentors, just colleagues and whatnot. Just absorb and talk and ask. Be confident enough to ask those questions, because at the end of the day, your clients are going to ask these questions, and you need to know where what the answer is and where you stand, and be able to communicate that.
Absolutely. Those are all good points. And we're going to end it on that. Natorie, thank you so much for your time. What I'll do is
Thank you.
I'll link your Instagram profile below. And if there's any new agents or people that have questions about getting licensed or they're just starting and they want to reach out to you and get the first year realtor's perspective, then you are the person that they should speak to. Natorie, have a wonderful rest of your day. And once again, thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you so much, Fernando.
You're welcome.